Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Manoj Singh Rana with the evening news. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs meeting of Cabinet Committee on Security following the events in Afghanistan. Indian Air Force aircraft C-17 brings back Indian envoy and officials from Kabul. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar discusses evolving situation in Afghanistan with his France counterpart. New Delhi slams Islamabad for attacks on cultural heritage of minority communities in Pakistan. Prime Minister interacts with para-athlete contingent for Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games virtually, says our villages and remote areas are full of talent and the contingent is a living example of that. Over 56 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses administered so far under nationwide vaccination drive. Recovery rate improves to 97.51%. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia announces over 1,300 crore rupee package for infrastructure development of the health sector in the northeastern states. Uttarakhand government extends ongoing COVID-19 curfew till 24th August. Election Commission notifies by-election for Tamil Nadu Rajya Sabha seat to be held on September the 13th. As the nationwide free COVID-19 vaccination campaign at government facilities for those above 18 years is going on, we advise our young listeners to get vaccinated and also help others get vaccinated. We also advise our listeners not to lower their guard as COVID-19 remains a threat to our health. Please stay at home unless it is essential to go out and continue to follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Security this evening. Official sources said the situation in Afghanistan was discussed in the meeting. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Home Minister Amit Shah, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Principal Secretary to Prime Minister Dr. P.K. Mishra, National Security Advisor Jitu Bhal, Cabinet Secretary Rajiv Gauba, Foreign Secretary Harsh V. Shringla attended the meeting. India today rushed home its ambassador and staff from the embassy in Kabul in a C-17 Globemaster aircraft of the Indian Air Force in view of the situation in Afghanistan. 150 people, including diplomats, officials, security personnel and some stranded Indians, landed at the Hindon Air Base near Delhi this evening after a brief halt for refuelling at Jamnagar in Gujarat. Talking to media persons at Jamnagar, Indian ambassador to Afghanistan, Rudrendra Tandon said the situation in Kabul is complex and quite fluid now. He said 192 personnel of the Indian mission in Kabul were evacuated from Afghanistan literally within 3 days in a very orderly fashion in 2 phases. He said the Indian embassy assisted and even gave shelter to many distressed Indians following the fast-changing situation in Kabul. He expressed gratitude for the warm welcome by the people at Jamnagar Air Base. More from our correspondent.
Jamnagar district administrations along with the local leaders have not only arranged Gujarati food but also welcomed them with flowers and garlands. All the staff members of Indian mission at Kabul and other people have chanted Bharat Mata Ki Jai after touching the Indian soil at Jamnagar Air Base. The happiness of the safe evacuation by the Indian Air Force are quite visible on the face of all the people after reaching India from Afghanistan. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today discussed the evolving situation in Afghanistan with French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian. In a tweet, Dr. Jaishankar said India and France will continue to coordinate in the UN Security Council. The External Affairs Minister thanked Jean-Yves Le Drian for evacuating 21 Indian nationals from Kabul to Paris. Dr. S. Jaishankar reached New York, where he will be presiding over 2 high-level signature events of the United Nations, The first event will be an open debate tomorrow on protecting the protectors, technology and peacekeeping. The second event on Thursday will be a high-level briefing on threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts. His visit to New York comes during India's presidency of the United Nations Security Council. The open debate on peacekeeping will focus on the theme of protecting the protectors, including through the use of modern technological tools to enhance the safety and security of peacekeepers and to aid peacekeeping missions.
India today said that attacks on the cultural heritage of minority communities in Pakistan highlight the growing intolerance and lack of respect for minority communities in the Pakistani society. In response to media queries regarding the vandalization of the statue of Maharaja Ranjit Singh in Lahore, MEA spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said this is the third such incident wherein the statue has been vandalized since it was unveiled in 2019. He said incidents of violence against minority communities, including attacks on their places of worship, their cultural heritage, as well as their private property, are increasing at an alarming rate in Pakistan. Mr. Bagchi said it was only 12 days ago that a mob attacked and desecrated a Hindu temple in Rahim Yar Khan. The MEA spokesperson said the Pakistani state has failed completely in its duty to prevent such attacks, and it is creating a climate of fear for the minority communities to practice their faith. India called upon the government of Pakistan to ensure the safety, security and well-being of its minority communities. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stressed the need to keep on improving the ways and system to develop sports culture in India. He pointed out that traditional sports are getting a new identity along with the promotion of international sports. Interacting with the para-athlete contingent for Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games today through video conferencing, Mr. Modi highlighted that for recognizing local talents, 360 Khelo India centers have been established, and these centers will be increased to 1,000 soon. The Prime Minister added that equipment, grounds and infrastructure are being made available to sportspersons. Mr. Modi said the villages in remote areas are full of talent, and the contingent of para-athletes are a living example of that. There are so many youth who have the ability to bring many medals, and the country is trying to reach out to them. Lauding the para-athletes for their self-confidence and willpower, Mr. Modi credited their hard work with the biggest ever contingent to the Paralympic Games. He expressed hopes that India will create a new history at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games. During her interaction with the Prime Minister, para-archer Jyoti Balian shared her inspiring story of how she overcame depression after losing her father and now aspires to win the medal for the nation. Para-canoe athlete Prachi Yadav shared that it is due to her father's constant support that she has been able to realize her dreams.
काफी कुछ संघर्ष देखे हैं मैंने, क्योंकि सर बचपन से ही दिव्यांग थी तो चलना नहीं हो पाता था, और छोटी उम्र में ही सर मेरी माँ भी गुजर गई थी, तो स्ट्रगल काफी देखा मैंने, लेकिन मेरे पिताजी ने मुझे बहुत संभाल के रखा। बहुत अच्छा लगता है कि मैं ऐसी पहली भारतीय महिला बनी हूँ जिसने इस गेम में क्वालिफाई किया, और मैं औरों को भी प्रेरित करूंगी कि वो मतलब घर में छुप के ना बैठे, और अगर उनको स्पोर्ट्स में इंटरेस्ट है तो जैसे मेरे परिवार ने सपोर्ट किया है, उनके परिवार वाले भी लड़कियों को इसी तरह सपोर्ट।
Para-badminton player Parul Parmar also talked about her experience. The Prime Minister lauded her, saying she has worked hard on her fitness.
मैं जब गांधीनगर में था, शायद साल में 4-6 बार आपसे मिलना होता था, तो मुझे मालूम है कि आप कितने परफेक्शन के साथ मेहनत करने वालों में से हैं। फिर भी मैं चाहूंगा कि देश जरा जाने आपके विषय में।
फिटनेस का तो मेरे पापा खेलते थे तो मेरा कंटिन्यू रहा उनके साथ सहयोग, तो एक साथ रहा कि सुबह शाम खेलना है। बचपन से लेके एक आदत, जैसे हमारे अच्छी आदतें डालते हैं उसी तरह पापा ने डाली थी। जो मेरा लक्ष्य था कि मैं ओलंपिक में 3 गोल्ड मेडल लाऊं, सिंगल, डबल और मिक्स, जो मेरी तीनों इवेंट है, जो 2002 में मैंने जीता है ऑलरेडी।
Para-archer Rakesh Kumar, javelin thrower Devendra Jhajaria, para-athlete Mariyappan Thangavelu and para-badminton player Palak Kohli also talked about their experiences. Para-powerlifter Sakina Khatun, para-canoe athlete Prachi Yadav and para-shooter Singh Raj also shared their thoughts. Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur lauded the fighting spirit of para-athletes for showing a brilliant performance at various international para-athletic games.
खेल मंत्रालय ने ये सुनिश्चित किया कि हमारे खिलाड़ियों को हर प्रकार की सुविधा मुहैया कराई जा सके, जिससे उनकी तैयारी अव्वल दर्जे की हो, वह अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर देश का नाम रोशन कर सके। भारतीय पैरा एथलीट्स ने दुनिया भर में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय पैरा स्पोर्ट्स प्रतियोगिताओं में लगातार उत्कृष्ट प्रदर्शन किया है। आपने कई मौकों पर भारत को गौरवान्वित किया है और हर भारतीय का सिर फक्र से ऊंचा किया है।
Mr. Thakur thanked the Prime Minister for extending support to athletes across the country. He said India's Paralympics contingent is set to script history in Tokyo and the players are charged up with the best wishes of Prime Minister Modi. The minister said this time India is sending its largest contingent ever, in which 54 para players will represent the country in 9 para sports categories. 54 para athletes across 9 sports disciplines will be heading to Tokyo to represent the nation. This is India's largest ever contingent to the Paralympic Games.
The Health Ministry said over 56 crore vaccine doses have been administered so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. India reported 25,166 new cases in the last 24 hours, which is the lowest in 154 days. The active caseload is currently at 3,69,846. The national recovery rate is currently at 97.51%, the highest since March last year. Union Health and Family Welfare Minister Mansukh Mandavia has announced a package of more than 1,300 crore rupees for infrastructure development in the health sector in the northeastern states. Talking to newspersons after chairing a review meeting on COVID-19 pandemic and immunization with the health ministers of all northeastern states in Guwahati, Mr. Mandavia said the central government is providing this aid for the health infrastructure development at district level to combat the pandemic as per population ratio.
कोविड मैनेजमेंट के लिए और भविष्य में कोविड का सामना करने के लिए 1,300 करोड़ से अधिक कोविड रिस्पांस पैकेज के तहत नॉर्थ ईस्ट के सभी स्टेट को सहायता दी जाएगी। ये सहायता का उपयोग करके लोकल लेवल पर, डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल पर मेडिसिन का प्रोक्योरमेंट हो, बफर स्टॉक हो, ऑक्सीजन का स्टॉक हो, बेड की सुविधा बढ़े, आईसीयू बेड की सुविधा बढ़े, बच्चों के लिए बेड की सुविधा बढ़े, ये सारी व्यवस्था उसमें से की जाएगी।
The Union Health Minister said the centre is providing the required aid as desired by the state governments of the Northeast. He emphasized on aggressive vaccination in the northeastern states and assured that there will not be any vaccine shortage. Health ministers of Assam, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim and senior officials of Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh and Tripura were present in the review meeting. The Uttarakhand government has extended the ongoing COVID curfew by another week till the 24th of August. The government has also issued fresh guidelines. Meanwhile, 41 infected patients have recovered today. According to the health bulletin, 31 people have tested positive for COVID-19. The recovery rate is 95.99%. More from our Dehradun correspondent.
COVID curfew has been extended with some relaxation. Exemption has been given to those people from showing negative test reports who have received both doses of COVID vaccine 15 days before their arrival in the state. According to the fresh SOP, the hotels, restaurants and other eateries will operate with 50% capacity. All industries in both urban and rural areas will operate with strict adherence. Meanwhile, schools in the state have been reopened amid COVID protocols. Raghavesh Pandey, AIR News, Dehradun.
The Meghalaya government has decided to relax the ongoing curfew in Shillong agglomeration of East Khasi Hills district from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. starting from tomorrow. Chief Minister Conrad K. Sangma, after chairing a meeting today at Shillong, said the decision was taken as the situation in the city has improved in the last 24 hours. He further informed that the government has sought support from various stakeholders to ensure peace and normalcy is restored. The Chief Minister also said that mobile internet services will be restored from 6 p.m. tomorrow.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar today conducted an aerial survey of flood-affected areas of the state to assess the damage caused by prevailing floods. Mr. Kumar made an aerial survey of flood-affected Bhagalpur and Khagaria districts to take stock of the situation arising out of floods. After the aerial survey, Mr. Kumar held a review meeting with the district magistrates of affected districts and instructed them to further step up relief and rescue operations in affected areas of the state. Over 40 lakh people spread over 26 districts including Patna, Katihar, Samastipur and Munger are reeling under the impact of floods. Several rivers including the Ganga, Son, Punpun and Kosi are flowing above the danger marks. Train services on the Bhagalpur-Munger section and the Kiul-Bhagalpur section have remained suspended on the fourth day consecutive due to submergence of railway tracks at several places. Long route trains have been diverted on alternate routes. The death toll in the Himachal Pradesh's Kinnaur landslide incident has reached 28 after 3 more bodies were recovered from the debris today. It may be recalled that a massive landslide occurred last Wednesday near Nigulsari in Kinnaur district, in which a Himachal Road Transport Corporation HRTC bus along with other vehicles got buried under the debris. Since then, the search and rescue operation is being carried out jointly by the NDRF, ITBP, police and Home Guard personnel. In this incident, 13 people were rescued. The state government has already announced an ex gratia of 5 lakh rupees to the kin of each deceased person and 50,000 rupees to those who were injured in this tragic incident. You're listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs meeting of Cabinet Committee on Security following the events in Afghanistan. Indian Air Force aircraft C-17 brings back Indian envoy and officials from Kabul. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar discusses evolving situation in Afghanistan with his France counterpart. New Delhi slams Islamabad for attacks on cultural heritage of minority communities in Pakistan. Prime Minister interacts with para-athlete contingent for Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games virtually, says our villages in remote areas are full of talent and the contingent is a living example of that. Over 56 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses administered so far under nationwide vaccination drive. Recovery rate improves to 97.51%. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia announces over 1,300 crore rupee package for infrastructure development of health sector in northeastern states. Uttarakhand government extends ongoing COVID-19 curfew till 24th of August. And Election Commission notifies by-election for Tamil Nadu Rajya Sabha seat to be held on September the 13th. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the evening news. Minister for Road Transport and Highways Nitin Gadkari has said the vehicle scrappage policy is a win-win policy for all the stakeholders and for the country. Addressing media on key issues relating to the policy this evening in New Delhi, Mr. Gadkari said the policy will help bring down air pollution, which is a major concern for all. He said the policy will boost the growth of the automobile sector, export and will bring competitiveness. The minister said the government wants to set up at least one scrapping centre and fitness centre in every district of the country. However, more such centres can be opened in big cities. He said the centres will generate more employment for the youth. Prime Minister Narendra Modi during the Investor Summit in Gujarat on the 13th of this month launched the National Automobile Scrappage Policy and said the policy will give a new identity to the auto sector and to the mobility of New India. Minister of State for Commerce and Industry Anupriya Patel said the government has taken several steps to make India a leading manufacturing and export hub. She said the government is committed to protect and promote domestic industries. In an exclusive interview with All India Radio News, Anupriya Patel said the Commerce and Industry Ministry is working to achieve the export target of $400 billion as envisioned by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. She said Directorate General of Foreign Trade is working closely with the states to identify products at district level which have a huge export potential.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कहा कि क्यों ना हम अपने जिलों को एक्सपोर्ट हब बनाने की कोशिश करें। हमारे देश के ऐसे बहुत सारे जिले हैं जिसमें कोई ना कोई उत्पाद ऐसा अवश्य है जिसमें एक्सपोर्ट पोटेंशियल है, तो हम हर एक जिले को एक एक्सपोर्ट हब बना सकते हैं और इस जिम्मेदारी के तहत जो हमारा डायरेक्टर जनरल फॉरेन ट्रेड है वो राज्यों की सरकारों के साथ एंगेज कर रहा है। जिला स्तर पर हम आइडेंटिफाई कर रहे हैं ऐसे उत्पादों को जिनका एक्सपोर्ट पोटेंशियल है, उसे तमाम तरीके का सहूलियत देकर हम बढ़ाना चाहते हैं। इसके अलावा जो हमारी प्रोडक्ट लिंक इंसेंटिव स्कीम है उसके तहत भी हम मैन्युफैक्चरिंग भी बढ़ा रहे हैं, एक्सपोर्ट को हम गति देना चाहते हैं।
The interview can be heard tonight on FM Gold and additional frequencies from 9:15 p.m. onwards. This program will also be available on our website newsonair.com and on our YouTube channel News on AIR Official. You can also follow us on the News on AIR app for updates. In Tamil Nadu, by-election for a Rajya Sabha seat will be held on the 13th of September. According to the notification of the Election Commission, the seat fell vacant with the death of A. Muhammad Jan. The filing of nominations will begin on the 24th of this month, and the last date for filing of nominations is the 31st of August. The last date for withdrawal of candidature is the 3rd of September. The statement from the Election Commission directed the Chief Secretary to depute a senior officer from the state to ensure that the extant instructions regarding COVID-19 containment measures are complied with during the by-election. The Sensex and the Nifty today hit fresh record highs. Both stocks logged modest gains even as the cues from global equity markets were negative. The Sensex closed near 55,800 while the Nifty settled above the 16,600 level.
As our nation celebrates the 75th year of independence, a series of events are being organized by the government as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. To commemorate the occasion, as a Jan Utsav, All India Radio News brings its listeners a special quiz on India's freedom movement and its glorious history. The quiz will be conducted every Monday and Tuesday in the morning news till the 15th of August 2022. AIR News got an overwhelming response from its listeners across the world, and the winner of yesterday's quiz is Rahul Kashyap from Shimla, Himachal Pradesh.
Azadi Ka Safar every day with All India Radio from Monday the 16th of August. As part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, News Services Division of All India Radio brings to you the story of glorious struggle and sacrifices of freedom fighters on 100.1 FM Gold channel in the English news bulletins at 8:30 AM, 2 PM and 8:30 PM. Stay tuned.
Now, let's listen to our special program, Azadi Ka Safar.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a Nation. India's glorious fight for freedom is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the valiant struggle every day. In today's episode, we will give you a brief about Madan Lal Dhingra. This day is the death anniversary of Madan Lal Dhingra.
The wave of independence movement had started initially as a protest against the partition of Bengal, and it gradually grew into a demand for complete freedom. Indians realized the fact that a group of foreigners who came to our shores as traders had cleverly divided the people and started ruling them. The wealth of this vast land was systematically looted by them. The very same people who depended on us for their trade started crushing our cottage and village industries, treating the people of the soil as slaves. This naturally needed an equal and proportionate reply. The people revolted against the oppressors, and the country began witnessing sporadic protests. Cruel treatment to the freedom fighters, legendary heroes by the British, agitated youth, and one of such young freedom activists was Madan Lal Dhingra.
Madan Lal Dhingra was born on 18th of September 1883 in Amritsar, Punjab. He went to Lahore in 1900 to study at the Government College University. There he was influenced by the nationalist movement, which at that time was about seeking home rule. Dhingra was especially troubled by the poverty of India. He studied the literature concerning the causes of Indian poverty and felt that the solution to these problems lay in Swaraj and Swadeshi. In 1904, Dhingra led a student protest against the principal's order to have the college blazer made of cloth imported from Britain. He was expelled from the college for this. In general, the incidence of revolutionary nationalism was on the rise during those days. This incident brought Dhingra closer to the revolutionary nationalism.
In 1905, Dhingra went to London and stayed in India House. India House was a student residence located in North London. With the patronage of lawyer Shyamji Krishna Verma, it was open to promote nationalist views among Indian students in Britain. It was in India House that Madanlal Dhingra met V.D. Savarkar, who was then the manager of India House.
Meanwhile, on 8th of June 1909, Baba Rao Ganesh Savarkar, elder brother of Veer Savarkar, was sentenced to transportation for life. This deportation of Baba Rao Savarkar enraged the revolutionaries in London. William Hutt Curzon Wiley was the head of the secret police then and had been trying to obtain information about Savarkar and other revolutionaries. It was because of Curzon Wiley that the revolutionary freedom fighters in London were being targeted. The journal of Shyamji Krishna Verma, named The Indian Sociologist, described Wiley as old repentant foe of India who has fattened on the misery of the Indian peasant ever since they began their career. The resentment was such among the revolutionaries that somehow forced Dhingra to take an extreme step.
On 1st July 1909, Dhingra attended a gathering hosted by the National Indian Association at the Imperial Institute. William Hutt Curzon Wiley, the British officer, was also present in the meeting. At the end of the event, as the guests were leaving, Dhingra shot Curzon Wiley at point-blank range.
Dhingra was immediately arrested. At his trial, he represented himself, though he did not recognize the legitimacy of the court. He claimed that the gunning down of Curzon Wiley was a patriotic act and in retaliation for the inhuman killings of Indians by the British government in India. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. He was executed at Pentonville Prison on 17th of August 1909.
Young Madanlal Dhingra had comfortable and promising start to life. His English education assured him that, but that wasn't to be. He preferred to avenge injustice done to his countrymen. He knew it very well that avenging would entail untold misery for him, yet he took the plunge. Such was the determination of young Dhingra, and this and many more such sacrifices paved the way for a freedom that was to come many decades later.
And what a coincidence it was that in 1947, the withdrawal of British forces started from 17th of August. On 17th of August, the first major unit made its exit from the former colony. A large contingent of the Royal Air Force sailed from Bombay to, as it was then known, back Great Britain. Of course, the total withdrawal of all British troops took time. It wasn't until February 1948 that the final departures took place.
British withdrawal signaled the end of the colonial Indian Army. Historians are predominantly in agreement that Lord Mountbatten's haste in withdrawing the British forces from India and essentially split the country. That's all today. Let's keep celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. We'll bring you more tomorrow.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs meeting of Cabinet Committee on Security following the events in Afghanistan. Indian Air Force aircraft C-17 brings back Indian envoy and officials from Kabul. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar discusses evolving situation in Afghanistan with his France counterpart. New Delhi slams Islamabad for attacks on cultural heritage of minority communities in Pakistan. Prime Minister interacts with para-athlete contingent for Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games virtually, says our villages and remote areas are full of talent and the contingent is a living example of that. Over 56 crore COVID-19 vaccine doses administered so far under nationwide vaccination drive. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.